I look like an Oompa Loompa from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The problem was I was on the bench that day for Ireland, right? And but my poor mum, God bless her, she says, "Oh, the sun must be very different in South Africa. Bernard's got a colour or whatever."
When I made a mistake on the field, you know, the vitriol that came my way in front of all the lads, I was like, mate, do not speak to me like that ever again.
You are listening to the official Rugby World Cup podcast, brought to you by Asahi Super Dry, the official beer of the World Cup. On today's show, we have a doctor, a mastermind, and a magician in Jamie Roberts, Bernard Jackman, and Niko Matawalu. Lovely to see you, lads. We should start off, I think, with an apology, Bernard, from you to Niko. Do you know how to say sorry for spilling half a cup of coffee on your white t-shirt in French?
Nico, je suis désolé. J'ai fait une grosse bêtise et j'espère on peut rester les amis.
Well done, mate. That's really good.
That's very good.
I'm sorry I messed. No, sorry I messed.
Already. Before
Look,
you
it was
do
only a coffee. It could have been a beer or yeah. Well, we'll make it up later.
It's a terrible start. It's lovely to see you, lads. Welcome to France. I know you've been out here for a little while watching. Can we just start with that? Rugby World Cup 2023 in France. How would you sum it up so far?
Phenomenal. I think it's for the very first game, France-New Zealand, it just kicked off, and the French fans have been incredible. As we know, there's an unbelievable rugby culture here, but all the visiting fans, whether it's the Portuguese last night, the Fijians, the Georgians, everybody's bought into it, and what a country. I mean, the culture, the ability to get around, whether it's TGV or fly, and the stadium's packed out, and we've got some good rugby, but the best is yet to come.
I'd say unpredictable, which is exactly what we want, right, from a tournament like this. I say that because I've got all my predictions dreadfully wrong. But it's just amazing, isn't it? We want to see rugby games that are competitive, and we want to see, you know, opinions flying everywhere, and people obviously caring about results. Like it's been incredible. And as Bernard said, what a country to host it. I mean, you know, all the stadiums have been magnificent, the fans in full voice. Some of the occasions and moments this tournament has created, you know, the legacy it's leaving behind, it lasts a lifetime.
You're so right. When it's unpredictable, it's so much fun for a fan. You know, maybe not for your team, but for the neutral. What have you made of it, Niko?
I will say surprise. Some good, like tier 2 team, they put their hands up. They play really decent rugby. And that's what rugby is about, for all the tier 2 to put their hands up for the tier 1 nation.
Well, it was tier 2 against tier 2. Some might say last night, just a few hours ago, Fiji, Portugal. Exactly. You didn't see it though. Did you get back in time for it?
I did. I called the missus once I arrived to video call, and she was talking. I said, "No, just move the screen to the to the TV. I want to watch the game." So I saw 10-10, and then Portugal scored a try. I was like, "Okay, I'll call you later." But no, like it's really interesting. Good rugby. We're gonna put our hands up for Portugal. They really play really well.
They've been great, haven't they? Great watching Portugal in the World Cup.
I was hugely impressed with them against Wales.
Yeah.
That match in Nice, just after 20 minutes, I was like, wow. Wow. It's not just their attitudes of playing. You know, I think all rugby teams now, all the players are going to give everything. That's a given. But the quality of their rugby, you know, the quality and their width and their shape and how they play, last night epitomised that. They were absolutely brilliant.
Difference is Wales went on to win. Fiji didn't. So what, you're 17-10 down. Are you still confident at that point? I know you're close with the boys. I know your brother was playing 9 last night. What were they saying? What was the mindset?
I think like Fijian type of mentality. I spoke to some of the boys after the game. They just Portugal just knew what's coming. They destroy all the set pieces, line out especially. That's what Fiji are good at. If they win their ball, go wide, they will be play what rugby, open game. But they just stop it, for Fiji to play. But they have a confidence to go over to the quarterfinal.
Yeah. There was that 14-point swing, wasn't there? And you think Portugal, they're 7 points
Yeah.
up. They almost went the length,
Yeah.
dropped the ball.
Exactly.
And you went the other side. I mean, that saved the game. I was getting quite excited because my original prediction of Australia making the final might have come true, but I was proved wrong.
I have to say though, Jay, you did persevere with that for a long
horrendous.
time.
Horrendous. And I put my hands up now. I apologise to everyone out there.
What were your other predictions just quickly that went wrong?
I thought the All Blacks would beat France. Opening match, got that wrong.
Yeah.
I thought
That's
Scotland
all right,
would
that's-
upset the box.
Yeah.
Got that wrong. I talk about unpredictability. I thought Scotland Ireland would be a 10-point match. Maybe I didn't see that result coming. France Italy, thought that would be a bit of a nervy game. Absolutely blew them off the park. So I'm getting them all wrong.
Oh, well.
Just on Fiji, the Fijian coach Simon Raului is a guy I got to know pretty well when I was coaching in France. He was coaching in Stade Francais, and we did our pro license together. But I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago after they beat Australia, and apparently Australia had 3 sports psychologists, whatever. Right? He was asked, "How do you feel about the resources they have and you don't have?" And he said, "Oh, look, we don't have that, but we have a preacher." And because for us, our boys, it's faith and family is huge, and he's kind of like a sports psychologist first. And I thought it was brilliant, but I actually don't think he obviously can use his preacher, but he needs a cardiologist. I mean, the way they put the way they play would break your heart. You know what I mean? If you're the coach, because they're so loose, and I felt so sorry for him in the coaching box. He stays calm. They need a cardiologist. Well, yeah, they stay calm, but I'm sure underneath he's like a swan on water.
Heart rate
monitor on him, and because they would drive you bananas. You know what I mean? But now they've England, and I think underdogs is going to suit them. Yeah. And we're just talking. I think Fiji are the kind of team who can actually just park that loss, whereas most other teams going into a quarter-final on the back of a loss would be all down themselves, and they'll wake up this morning and say, we're in a quarter-final, it's against England, let's go. It's going to be fascinating to watch that.
It's going to motivate them, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Simon Raului done a brilliant job. I used to run on the pitch and ask for his autograph at Newport.
Did you?
As a young kid.
Of course, yeah, he played it, didn't he?
And he was
Montgomery
coaching in Racing when I went to play in Paris as well. He's done a brilliant job with that group.
Yeah.
Really brought them together.
Just really funny then, Bernard, when you're talking about our coach's nightmare. He was just giggling away. Like, what's that about? Is it just you just like playing, or you just ignore the coaches? What is it?
No, like I really agree what they say. That's what Fiji rugby players is about, because it's for us like family come first, and as a coach like Simon Raului, he already been in a rugby jersey before. So he already know what it's used to be like. And now he tried to get like more new, good ideas.
Yeah, so what's different? What's different now to this Fiji to the one?
It's totally different from my time I was playing. First, it's the medical, the recovery, physios, all these technical little things like that.
But that is the difference, isn't that? Professionalism. Hey, Jamie, I walked in to Philippe Saint-André's third summer house here in France for the podcast today, and it's a guy called Freddie who just hangs around here pretending it's his place. He's quite famous around here, Freddie. And after he tried to say bonjour for the 5th time to me, he then said, "Hey, mate, Wales are going to win the World Cup."
I got really excited after they beat Australia. I was pitch side and I was like, we're going to win it. They've been one of the success stories of the tournament, and that's from an objective position. I think they've been magnificent. From where Wales have come 12 months ago, I think the Georgia weekend, there's just been summed it up. We lost to Georgia at home in November, and obviously there was a lot of change after that. It was kind of our lowest point for a long time. Warren Gatland comes in, and he's gone back to basics, I think, with his team. I think when he come in, you've got a bit of a short turnaround with teams. But you tell me, you've coached the game. You go after the low-hanging fruit, your S&C, your set piece. You're getting kind of the DNA back in the side. And I watch Wales now. They've got their DNA back. They've got some wonderful players, but they're playing together and they're playing with a purpose. That kind of pressure game. They're up there with any side in the world in the way they pressure sides. Their kick chase game, the understanding when to kick pass, run. In Dan Bigger, they've got a serious operator who controls risk in the game. And I think they'd be magnificent. I mean, whether we're going to win it or not.
Well, because your predictions are so good, but you go as far as saying they
If I say Wales aren't going to win it, they'll probably win it. But
yeah.
I mean, look, the quarterfinals are a toss of a coin. Well, come on to discuss that. It's, I mean, where do you see Wales' development?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, what do you want to do first?
No, I was going to say,
I think Gatland was the right man. He obviously had that credibility among the squad. They believe in him, but he needed that pre-season. He's always been, you've been part of it, he's always put so much faith in fitness and convincing the players that they're as fit as anybody. But it probably was very hard to do that during the Six Nations with with short preparation time. Obviously, he doesn't have Sean Edwards, but they seem to defensively be back to nearly that level. Probably better off without the ball, or certainly better off playing that cup type rugby, which is playing the percentages, dominating territory and not being so focused about the possession, but then making good decisions. And just having 4 or 5 players who on their day can win a game, and Davies at scrum half is one of them. Faletau, I think, is a big loss. I think that's a bit of a blow. But I thought Dan Biggar, I thought he's carried him to victory. He's nearly like a one-man crusade, and he's so influential around him. And no one want to play them in knockout rugby, because the way they play, you have to be very, very good to break it down. And as the pressure mounts, as you get closer to finals, having an all singing, all dancing game isn't always what you want.
You don't want to be level with Wales at 60 minutes, do you?
No. And you don't want to overplay against Wales either, because they look so comfortable defensively. I mean, credit to name check Mike Fordshaw, Alex King. I think they've both done a brilliant job. Brilliant job. That Welsh defence looks as comfortable to me than it has done in a long time. Teams are trying to go multi-phase, just going absolutely nowhere.
Yeah. Is that because that's the thing? Like Fiji did try and play, and Wales had the game to beat them, where Australia didn't, did they?
I think it's when Wales. We all know the history of Wales and Fiji, Australia. They've been in the same pool for like nearly
the last 3 World Cups.
Yeah, the last 3 World Cup. Yeah. So they know, and the coaches know what to play. I think when Fiji play Wales, first it's very tough. Only Fiji always go for, if we only have a first break. If we have the first break, for example, from the set piece, we're going to break them. If not, as we can see, Wales defense are really good at folding and look up where's the attacking. Yeah.
So if you don't get them first phase.
Exactly. The first 2 phases is so important. I think Wales doing so great.
Gatland's become a bit of a superstar, hasn't he? You've got a bit of history.
He's my first. He's bounced back. I mean, a year ago, people were saying, "Oh, why did he come back? Has he lost his Midas touch?" Because obviously the Lions series was frustrating for him, and obviously Waikato. But
you then say you might not have come back if you knew the shape.
Well, he said that, yeah. But in fairness to him, he hasn't panicked. He's just said, right, when I get him together for the summer, I can influence him, and he's bounced back. But he gave me my first ever contract, rugby and professional in Ireland in '97. So he coached me in Connacht, and then he brought me to South Africa as a young 19-year-old on an old-fashioned tour, 6 weeks. And we lost the first game to Western Province. Irish rugby was in a pretty bad state. And one night he took out we had a team meeting before we played a team called Boland in George. And he said, look at lads, whenever I played the Irish, the Welsh, the Scots or the English, we used to, for Waikato or for New Zealand, we used to look and laugh at how pasty and unathletic you looked. So we're going to try some fake tan. So he goes, Jackman and Trevor Brennan was this fella. He ended up playing for Toulouse. He goes, you're the 2 whitest in the room, and obviously the two most naive as well, right? So he gave us this bottle with no instructions. Now, I have a 17-year-old daughter. I know a lot more about fake tan now than I did then, right? But we go up to the bedroom, and I thought we'd just do our face, and I've obviously a lot of face, our forearms and our quads, because obviously you wear your socks up, whatever. And Trevor Brennan goes, no, we're going to Sea Point, which is a beach on Thursday. We have to do the full body, right? So he was wearing white fronts, I'll never forget. I was wearing boxer shorts, and we basically applied the fake tan all over, okay? And nothing happened, okay? Nothing happened. So Trevor goes, we better do another cover, right? So we ended up doing three layers, okay? Plastered on.
Double dip.
Triple dipped, right? And then nothing happened. So Trevor goes, Gatland's taking the mick out of us. It's obviously just shampoo or whatever. I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was like I had an accident in the bed, right? And I looked over at Brennan, and he was like a mandarin orange, right? So I shouted at him. All I could see were the whites of his eyes. He pointed at me. So 2 of us in the shower trying to get it off, right? But it doesn't come off straight away. So down to breakfast. Obviously, everyone's having a great laugh. I look like an Oompa Loompa from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The problem was I was on the bench that day for Ireland, right? And we were wearing these white Nike jerseys. And effectively, as soon as you start to warm up and sweat, it starts to run.
Yeah.
So basically, my white jersey was like I'd been eating chocolate. I was covered in it. But my poor mum back home, like my mum has followed me around, and she's probably, when she sees this, she's going to be worried about me getting burnt. But she's been following me around since I was 2 or 3 with Factor 50, right? Okay. She's watching the match on Sky Sports with my sister. And she sees me coming off the bench or whatever, and God bless her, she says, "Oh, the sun must be very different down in South Africa. Bernard's got a colour," or whatever. So yeah, that's my most embarrassing moment in rugby.
Trying to get ahead.
Exactly.
That was like a weird phase of Welsh rugby as well. Do you remember Henson, Hookie? They loved the.
That was their choice, though. That was their choice
because they believed if you look
good,
right?
Yeah.
If you look good,
feel good, play good.
I coach Gavin Henson in the Dragons, and obviously he's quite sallow, but I think he's fond of the fake tan. And my fitness coach came to me one day and said, "Gavin hasn't turned up for ice baths for 2 weeks." So anyway, I rang Gav, and I was like, "Gav, what's the story?" And he goes, "Oh no, the chlorine that you put in takes away my tan." So I have my own ice baths up in the house. So that was a new one for me as a coach.
He's different level, wasn't he? In fairness. Warren Gatland seems to be constantly coming up with different ways of motivating players and getting the best out of them. What was your experience of that when you played with him?
God, I think when I reflect, there's probably quite a few. I remember training camp in Poland once. There's probably 3 examples where I can reflect and think, right, Gats wanted to push the button with me to motivate me. One, I was training camp in Spala, pre-Rugby World Cup 2011. Went out for fitness first thing in the morning, on the try line, ready to go.
Was this the altitude Spala?
No, it's when we had the cryotherapy chambers.
Oh,
the altitude bit was in kind of Switzerland.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Lined up on the try line, ready to go, and he comes over. He's like, "Jamie, you're not training with the lads. You're in the pool. You've got to swim and do lengths for an hour without touching the floor because you hadn't weighed in the morning. You know, players monitor in the morning. I forgot to do that because I was probably quite tired, and I just completely forgot before breakfast. But it was one of those first guy to commit the crime of forgetting to weigh in, go and pay the penalty. So I had to swim for an hour, and I'm horrific at swimming." Go through the water
sea
like
lion.
Yeah, exactly. Another one, myself and Scotty Williams competed for the Welsh jersey for quite a few years with Wales, and I remember being at the Vale, walking down the corridor once, so the only other person coming the other way was Warren Gatland, and he kind of kept his distance a bit from the players back then. I'm sure he's a bit different now, but he just walked past and go, "Geez, Scott Williams trained well today." And I went to give an answer. He's already 10 metres away. He's gone. Doesn't want to hear my reply.
Just mind games then.
Oh yeah, and look, 2010 was probably the most brutal. The Lions went well in 2009, and kind of got Player of the Series there. Started to do a bit more on the press and sponsorship and bits like that around the game, as players do. And team meeting, Six Nations. I think we were playing England at the weekend. And, sat in a team meeting after lunch, ahead of going out for the afternoon session. Team meeting finishes, and he just goes, "Oh, before we go, Jamie, when are you going to start concentrating on your rugby?" And just walked away. Wow. Like in front of all the lads.
Really?
In front of all the lads.
Did that hit a nerve, or did you think, "Oh wow,
it was brutal. It was brutal. You can imagine the lads had a field day. Walking out to train, and the boys just absolutely ripping into me. But I think he kind of knew I was the sort of character who'd react to that, personality to react to it. And I mean, it was savage, absolutely savage. But it motivated me. I mean, when you got a coach calling you out, kind of a bit of a reset button of probably doing a bit too much off the field and not concentrating on it, and sometimes it needs the honesty like that from a coach in front of other lads to give you a bit of a rocket. So yeah, it served me well.
What would he have said about your Elton John glasses?
He'd love these, mate. Happy days. Never judge, Gav.
No, you look great, mate. You look very South of Francie.
I have another story about Gatland, actually. When he coached Wasp before he went to Wales, they had a brilliant Samoan hooker, Trevor Leota.
Oh, yeah.
He was a monster, right? But he could tend to be a bit loose around his diet. So Gatland...
Can we all?
Yeah, he wasn't the only one. And I was at Fat Club every summer, so I'm not throwing stones here, but Gatland worked out that his ideal fighting weight was 126 kilos, okay? And the Craig White... who worked in Ireland, brilliant fitness guy. His job was obviously to get the team fit, but also weigh everybody on a Monday, particularly Trevor. So
don't miss weighing day.
Don't miss weighing day, exactly. Yeah, you missed it for a reason. But anyway, so Trevor 126 kilos, and Gatland was supposed to be told if he went up up at all. He was supposed to be notified. So Gatland noticed that his performance had started to drop a little bit, and he started to get a bit tighter in his jersey. So after about 6 weeks anyway, Gatland reckoned he definitely put on weight. So he said to Craig White, "Oh, give me the stats there and the sheet for Trevor." And basically 6 weeks ago it was 125.8. The next week it might be 126.1. Pretty much bang on 126, like so regular. It wasn't funny. So Gatland was like, Jesus, he said, he looks like he's put on a bit of weight. Bring him down to the local pharmacy and weigh him down there, okay? So they brought him down, and next thing, Craig White came into the office, like white as a ghost, whatever, and he's like, "Oh, we've got a problem." He said, "Oh, what's going on?" He goes, "He's 132, right?" Okay, but I thought you said yesterday he was 126. He was. I don't know what's wrong, right? So he said, "This is bizarre," or whatever. So they brought Trevor in, and he started to give him a bit of a bollocking, whatever. And Trevor just put the head down and like very remorseful, didn't really say much. And so Warren said, "Look, go home, get your shit sorted out," whatever, right? So about 10 days later, he said to Craig, "Have you been talking to Trevor or whatever, right?" And Craig's like, "No, I thought you had," or whatever, right? So Trevor just gone home and hadn't come back, right? So Gatland thought, he must be pounding the streets, whatever, getting himself down to 126. He doesn't want to come back till he's 126. So he rang him and said, "Look, get your ass in here," or whatever. So they brought him down to the pharmacy, and he was 136. He put on another 4 or whatever, right? So Gatland goes, "No more time off. You're staying in here." But it worked out how he did it. So basically, they went down so they used to train in some old school, and there was a little room off the sports hall where the weighing scales was, right, where they kept the brooms and the committee. So it was backwards, whatever. But Trevor was so, I don't know if you remember him, but he was about 5'8" tall, 5'8" wide, whatever. But he was so wide, he could actually stand on the weighing scales and just use his elbows off the wall to balance himself, whatever, right? Whereas no one else could. So because he was so wide, Craig didn't realise it. So he was able to basically manipulate the scales with his elbows to get to 126. So then Gatland put Craig White living with him for about 6 weeks, got him down to 126, and he played his first match back was against Munster in Lansdowne Road in the European Cup semi-final. He was man of the match. He was man of the match, and he won that game for Wasson. They won the final and won their first European Cup. So, yeah, his methods are he's funny. He's old school, new school, isn't he?
He could have been 145 kegs.
He would have been if he had been left alone.
Yeah. You touched on it, Jay. Let's talk about the quarterfinals then. And please fight back at any point, Niko, when I say this. But am I thinking Northern Hemisphere rugby isn't a good place going into the quarterfinals here? Like, would you call most of them favourites, Northern Hemisphere teams?
I think the two best Northern Hemisphere teams are playing the two best Southern Hemisphere teams in a quarterfinal. I certainly believe that. I think the winner will come from that side. But yeah, Northern Hemisphere rugby is. I don't know how much better we are because I think Scotland have obviously their performance against Ireland, not qualifying again for quarterfinal. I know they're in a tough group. Wales are obviously looking like they've bounced back, but over the last couple of years have been on a bit of a dip. But I think it's Australia really who've dropped off. And I still think South Africa.
Jamie's prediction to win the World Cup?
Yeah, no, I fancy when Eddie Jones got that job. I understand where Jamie's coming from. I thought they would be much better, but just obviously hasn't happened for them. There's still a lot of talent in that group. But yeah, it is interesting. But the reality is, in 2 or 3 years' time, people won't be saying, "Oh, the top four, the 4 winners of the group were Northern Hemisphere." If a Southern Hemisphere team wins it, it's about one of those 4 now going and finishing the job and becoming only the second Northern Hemisphere team to ever win it. So
in your opinion, can
I think Ireland and France can do it? To be honest, I hope it's Ireland. I think we've got unbelievable momentum, but it's a kick of a ball. You know, it's an injury, it's a red card, it's an interception that will decide it. There's no clear cut team. Just we're building nicely. France obviously have a phenomenal opportunity with the home crowd behind them. Antoine Dupont probably coming back for the quarterfinal. But South Africa are going to be so hard to beat.
I know.
It's good. Like this weekend is going to be phenomenal.
It's funny when you just said that about like it could be anything, kick of a ball or a sending off. I immediately thought of 2011.
No, let's not talk about it.
Yeah. I know. Was it?
Let's not talk about
I randomly watched that game in a bunker in Afghanistan, and I was having all kinds of issues about perspective of life. But as a Welsh rugby fan with a few Welsh boys out there watching, it still hurts. Does it?
Still hurts. Yeah. The worst day of my rugby career, and I think all the Welsh lads on the pitch that day will agree with you. It does feel like that other half of the draw is playing at another level of intensity at the minute. I think the games we've
been a lot
seen,
of talk about that, hasn't there?
Yeah, the games we've seen that those teams playing in, it feels it's another level of rugby. So, you know, they would be favourites. Whoever is that half of the draw at the minute, they'd be favourites for the tournament. But, as you say, Bernard, knockout rugby, I mean, all it takes is, you know, an interception try here, a card there. It is what it is. And, you know, 2011 was pretty brutal for us. I mean, if you look back at Wales's last 3 World Cup campaigns, 2011, we lose a semi-final by a point. Obviously, we should have won it anyway, but the red card to Sam, you know, tilted the odds against us. You know, fast forward 2015, quarterfinal, Springboks, last-minute try. Right, 2019, last-minute penalty, semi-final, Springboks. So Wales have been desperately close the last 3 tournaments. Fourth time lucky.
Just on that, Jamie, and I was shocked by this. I was speaking to Johnny Sexton a couple of months ago, and he believes, and the Irish players believe, that when you come up against those top teams, it actually is the bounce of a ball, or could be the bounce of a ball. And I find that amazing, because we think that these players, they're so process driven, and get the process right, the outcome will look after itself. But they also accept that at this level, it could be just one error, one referee mistake, one bounce of a ball. And I think it's phenomenal to put so much effort in. Like, effectively, just take Johnny Sexton, this is 18 years in the making, his last opportunity to do something in a World Cup. And you're actually saying, we're going to go out there and give it absolutely everything we have, but we understand that maybe on the day, it'll be a bounce of the ball to us or to them that will decide it. It's strange, you know, but they do accept that. They accept that. And that's the respect they have for every other team, that's how close it is.
So I think you can mitigate against that by getting your S&C top draw. Come minute 70, minute 75. In these knockout games, this is where these games are going to be decided. At the end of the game, when everyone is absolutely knackered, and all it's going to take is one mistake from someone who's maybe not quite fit enough, not quite at that level, or someone who's fitter than the opposite number, just making one decision. Wow. One decision. That is why. What it's coming down to? That is what it's coming down to. It's one error, it's one moment of genius. And that clarity of thought when you've got your S&C spot on and you're super fit is so much better in players. And that's why the fittest teams often win these tournaments.
Well, so, look, when you think about Fiji and England then, I've just said, like, Northern Hemisphere teams might be favourites. Got plenty of magicians in that Fijian side. You have the fitness now. And I know you say it's about family and it's about where you're from, but surely in that dressing room, they are talking about
like now winning. Their mindset for this week, for the quarterfinal, I think they need to bring their A game, like against England on the warm-up before the World Cup. They win all the set pieces. They win all the rocks. And then I was like watching, it's like -3 on the rock. The ball is out. If they speed of ball. If they do that again, and no accuracy of passes like they do, offload and supporting players like they do, and they do it against Australia too. If they bring that mindset, I'm not going to surprise England will fall down on the quarterfinal.
Yeah, that's Fiji beating England now. It's not a surprise. That's one of the things we've learned from this World Cup, right? What is a surprise anymore?
Well, again, I think Fiji have been an immense success story of the tournament. The quality behind the scrum puts the fear of God into any side in Test rugby. Yeah. I mean, you know, how do you prepare? How do you prepare against that in the week? You know, defensively, you're facing Fiji scrums, whether they're in their own half or inside your 22. I mean, the capability of the strike runners is frightening, absolutely frightening. And watching England-Samoa, I think they lost the physical battle in that game. And, you know, watch out, because like Fiji will have watched that game, certainly after what happened at Twickenham, but watching that game in the tournament, I think if England don't quite get their physicality right and front up, Fiji will think they can get the edge here, I think.
I've got so many questions about it, and I want to ask you about the 10, 12, 13 axis for England. Maybe we'll get back to that in a second. Jay, I don't want to go back to 2011 because I know it still hurts. Is it true that... so Vincent Clerk is the guy that Sam tackles. Is it true that they stitched Sam up on the way home from Sydney? Do you know this story?
No, go on.
But I think Sam flew back a day after everyone else, and he flew back on the same plane as the French players. And all the French players jumped in a seat and left Vincent Clerk on his own. It's the only seat that Sam had was next to Vincent Clerc. So he had to do 24 hours back with the guy that he spear tackle in the semi-final World Cup.
It was quite contentious at the time, wasn't it? A divided opinion. Was it red? Was it yellow? You look at that tackle now, it's a straight red card.
Yeah.
Like the way the game has come and the rules have changed, that's without a doubt a red card now. So we can't really have a case to argue, but it was huge at the time. Isn't it? The frustrating thing for us when you look back and reflect on that is probably should have won it anyway.
Yeah,
we missed a few kicks, didn't we? We had momentum in the game.
And would have had a chance in the
that
final.
Is sport.
Yeah.
That is sport. Teams find a way to win, and that day France did. It's so mouthwatering these quarterfinals. I mean, often people talk about these tournaments, the quarterfinals being the best games, because the semis and finals often a real arm wrestle, but teams are going to let rip in the quarterfinals.
As you say, there's going to be some rugby this weekend. So playing in the World Cup, you've been there, Jay, you've been there, Niko, special. It's special to play in the World Cup, isn't it?
So I believe, yeah.
You've been a bridesmaid a few times,
I have
haven't
a
you?
unique stat. It's the only stat I have that's unique in Irish rugby is I was on standby for 3 World Cups and never got called out. So I know what it's like to be waiting at home for that phone. And it's a horrible thing to be watching a match kind of going, Jesus, if there's an injury in my position, I'll be on the plane.
Or not. I mean, Faletau's gone and Kieran Hardy's gone.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you
that's
never know.
that's probably more of a feature now than it was traditionally.
Right, okay.
Traditionally, and it's obviously not just Wales. South Africa didn't bring a hooker out yet, but that the squad used to be a little bit smaller, and generally in a specialist position you'd be out. But no, I've loved every World Cup. I was in Japan, but I think this is the best.
Brutal, isn't it? Yeah. That is brutal. I'll be on standby. Stay fit. We might call you.
Yeah.
Like the mindset must be absolutely savage.
Players miss out with tournaments.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's quality players in Fiji who've been left behind. Concentrate the talent at the top of the triangle in each country. That's the way it has to be. To win these tournaments, it means that the team gets selected. You are super privileged to be there, and you've also got to survive the warm-up games. You've got to, as well as selection, you've got to survive the brutality of the warm-up games.
Yeah. Because we've got a Fijian with us, just quickly on this England, it's been constant for how many years? Who plays 10 for England? So it's usually who plays 10 for Wales, isn't it? It's been the old historical argument. So from a Fijian point of view, what's your perfect 10, 12, 13 that you think, I fancy this? From a Fijian point of view, who's the best 10, 12, 13 for you? So flipping it round, who would you like to see there? Who could you attack?
I would go for George Ford at 10. 12, I put Farrell, and 13 Tuolangi.
And that's what you'd want to face as a Fijian? Or do you think that's England's strongest combination?
To go physical as Fiji, if they want to win this quarterfinal, they need to put one kicking game strategy. They both have a good kicking game, Farrell and Ford.
Okay.
And the physical, you got Tuolangi on the side there. I think that Tuisova will be there. Good head-to-head in there with another level.
He's not an easy guy to tackle, too.
No.
Have you had a go?
I think England play Farrell at 10. I think,
just quickly on to, so have you had a go tackling him? What's it like?
I think so. I think club. I faced him with my club once. I mean, Jesus. All the best. Get down as low as you can, ring of steel, and hope for the best, right? I mean, a lot of these players down here, Botti is another. I mean, how do you tackle that guy? Like, all the best. I think they go Farrell at 10.
Yeah.
Go,
no. Just on. I think the 12 has become the key position. I mean, if you look at it, Bundiak key for Ireland. People talk about Ireland's all singing, all dancing attack game, but having the ability to be direct and punch holes and obviously get the defence.
Well, like a Jamie Roberts.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it hasn't changed.
Gone out of fashion.
Yeah, but everyone talked about the game evolving, but still, if you have a Dante...
look at Manu, mate. You look at back-to-back World Cups. Who was at 12 for the Springboks? Damon Diolende, when they won it in 2019. History tells us teams that win Rugby World Cup have big ball-carrying centres at 12.
And I think England, if England compromise and go Ford Farrell and Tuilagi at 13... I think that is a compromise.
Do they not know yet, though?
I know, it's crazy. 41 games together at Axis, and they're still not sure at a quarterfinal stage. And that's not all Borthwick's fault.
2015 England, when, they brought Burgess in. How do you not know it?
If I'm Fiji and I'm seeing Mitchell, Ford, Farrell, there's only one channel you're attacking. Only one channel you're going after. So I think Steve Borthwick knows that. Kind of when you look at where Fiji are capable of causing most damage. I just think for big games, recent history, Farrell's your man at 10. I think he's delivered for club and country in the big games. And Ford has been fantastic for England. Certainly this tournament, he's come in. The opening match for Argentina, he was absolutely world class. But I just think for when it comes to knockout rugby, the mindset, the quality of Owen Farrell, I think they'll go with him at 10.
Who have we missed? What's any of the business here? What have we missed? World Cup wise,
Ireland, New Zealand.
New Zealand, yeah. Well, New Zealand's been interesting, isn't it? Because we haven't heard that much about them after they lost to France. But
it's so rare for New Zealand to be the hunter rather than the hunted.
Yeah.
And they've become that because of last year. Obviously losing to Argentina, losing the Test Series to Ireland. But I thought they'd rebuilt pretty nicely. And then that South Africa game in Twickenham, and there's all kinds of excuses, arrived in on Tuesday, etc. And then backing that up with losing the opening game, they've just gone about their business. They're still a quality side, and they're the All Blacks. You know what I mean? And they have legacy in this competition. And I think this week, there's coaches and will try and, I suppose, throw arrows or fire arrows at Ireland around. Well, they've never done anything in a World Cup, whereas we have. But I'm still not sure that there's that leadership group, that 4 or 5 players who are at the top of their game are in this All Black side. I think they're more vulnerable than ever been. But it'll take a phenomenal performance to beat them.
How big is Joe Schmidt's influence?
Massive. I think he's made them better. And so Joe's primary area of responsibility is the first phase strike attack, and that's been unbelievable for them. Like the All Blacks used to be a team who hurt you on transition, hurt you on counter attack, and they still can. But there's a real detail. Even against France in the first game, they had 3 launches that really hurt France. So they're detailed, and obviously he knows the Irish players inside out. Like he is an encyclopedia of knowledge. Even when Leinster were playing Zebra, he would name check 23 players, kicks off this, steps off this, weak in his left hand. Like he is a phenomenal brain on the game, and his area there is to try and hurt Ireland off set piece. Ireland's defences look really good, but for sure there's a weakness somewhere. And if we get exposed there, yourself, it just takes, like Ireland scoring the first attack against Scotland, that's a massive blow to Scotland. If Ireland were to concede early against New Zealand from a strike play, then you're chasing the game, and confidence-wise, you're hurt a little bit. So I think Joe Schmidt is a huge player in this game.
Yeah, look at that game, that quarterfinal is going to be a game for the ages. It's going to be one of those games that is remembered. I've no doubt in that. Look, the All Blacks could have beaten France in that opening match. Come minute 60, obviously All Blacks get a yellow card and it kind of goes away from them, but they were good enough to win that match. Springboks should have beaten Ireland. They missed 11 points off the tee. Yeah. So this quarterfinal draw could have been very different. We knew they were the big pool games, but those sides, Ireland and the All Blacks, are setting the standard. I think certainly when it comes to the attacking game in world rugby, they are the way Ireland are. What a machine! You saw them against Scotland. How organised, and we talk about cohesion being the buzzword, isn't it?
We need to be like them.
Yeah, it's impressive to watch when they're in full flow. But if there's any side that are gonna challenge them defensively, it's the ABs, and you say their legacy in this tournament is unparalleled. It's up there, and that's what should make Ireland maybe a little bit worried, because they have been flying under the radar, and when the All Blacks are in knockout rugby, I mean, watch out. It's
fair to say Ireland are doing something right in terms of development and producing talent going forward. What is it? Why are they so good at it? What's going on?
I think we were lucky that when we went professional, we stayed in the 4 provinces. So if you grew up in Galway, you're from Connacht. So we probably bar Connacht, and they probably have 75% of their players are homegrown. So everybody's playing for a jersey or a place that they're from. So that's a big driver. And obviously we haven't had any real financial crisis either, unlike most of their teams. So the RFU are a strong place financially. So when you go to work on a Monday morning in an Irish province, you put down your bag, all you're thinking about is getting better. You don't have any of that other stress. And also you're not even thinking about moving club usually. Other countries, players have agents ringing them, maybe move club for an extra 10 grand, which you understand is...
Wales, right?
Yeah, which I understand is it can be good if you can make more money, but the Irish players get well paid. There's a tax break to stay in Ireland, so the best players are there and you have that cohesion. Very good coaching, so... Munster have Graham Rowntree, Andy Farrell is back, Mike Catt's back. They picked up a lot of experience with England, good and bad, came to Ireland and have helped us get better. Joe Schmidt's been there.
Lancaster as well.
Lancaster, exactly. So we pay good money for good coaches. And then you have this school system. And the RFU are doing huge work to try and not be reliant on the school system. But the reality is those schools are putting a huge amount of money into their rugby development, S&C, sports psychology, good coaches, video analysis, etc. at 13, 14, 15 to try and win for the school. But if the rugby in the school drops off, the amount of students going there will drop off. The parents want their kids to have that positive rugby experience. And then it's a very narrow funnel as well, so only 4 teams. And as I said, it's just built. Now, look, we're number 1 in the world, but you're judged on trophy. So thankfully we have a Six Nations trophy and Grand Slam for this crop. But realistically, the next 3 weeks or maybe next week, will decide whether we really can talk about our pathways as being the way forward for other countries.
Going to do predictions very soon. Jay, I know you'll be excited about that. But I know. Before we do that, the Campi 15, this is what we've been doing on the podcast, a chance for you to choose one player, past or present, that you've played with or maybe wanted to, that may have been difficult to play with, but you enjoyed a beer with him after, or maybe just love him and got a great story about him or her. So, Niko, your Campi 15, who would it be? Who's going in your 15?
I'm going to go Tuisova.
Tuisova, so are you putting him in your team because he's a good player, or is he a good laugh off the field?
Good laugh off the field. Yeah. In general, he's like a quiet person. You will never ever see him like talk or anything, even but when you see him in the rugby field, he goes so hard. And when you see him on the point, he just destroy everything what's in front of him.
All right, Jay, you're next. Campi 15.
So many.
You've met. I think I don't know if this is a true record, but I reckon you've played in more countries or more clubs. Do you know what I mean? Like you've played. Go on, talk us through it. Done.
I've been French, so fortunate to play where I have.
Welsh, South African, Australian leagues.
Yeah.
What have I missed?
I didn't play in Japan.
Didn't play in Japan.
Played in quite a lot of countries.
Because you're rich enough, mate.
It's probably
sat with your Elton John glasses, your Gucci shirt. Who needs Japan when you're
Gucci shirt? You're all right, mate. You're all right.
Never bought me a coffee.
I think when he retired, the best thing I did about the game was travel and see all these different countries, and got to play with some great players, like some amazing lads, and in some great stadiums. I got to experience quite a lot in the game. I love it. I love travelling with the game. I love touring. Touring, coming to World Cups in countries like these. It's just amazing. The Lions tours are also all incredible. And I think it's one of the most wonderful thing about our game.
Absolutely.
And that the world is an open market as well for players to go and one year play in Ireland or the next year go and play in Fiji. It's incredible that the sport offers opportunities to people like that. And I've met some great players down the years and some serious competitors, lads on the field that just you desperately want to absolutely smash, but then have a beer with off the field, and they're really good people. Mike Brown was one, no doubt, and I got to play with him at Queen's. Danny Kerr, another, giving kind of gift of the gab on the field. Got to know him well when I played at Queen's. Both really good men. I'll go Johnny Sexton. I think Johnny was a serious competitor. He still is. And a guy, coming up against Sexton, Darcy, O'Driscoll, O'Gara, that sort of team. It was a team he desperately wanted to beat. Arguably that rivalry between Ireland and Wales was bigger than Wales England.
Yeah.
It was huge. It was a huge back in the kind of early teens. And the games were always brutal. And he was one guy who really wanted to get after Johnny, and he gave it on the field. There's no doubt about that. But then I got to play with him at Racing. And off the field, a great guy, a few beers, real humble guy, and really, really friendly fella. I've never had anyone speak to me on the pitch like I have Johnny Sexton.
Not even bigger.
When I've made a mistake on the field. When I made a mistake on the field, the vitriol that came my way in front of all the lads, I was like, mate, do not speak to me like that ever again in front of the lads. But it was for a reason. After training, he's like, mate, sorry, I had to do it. Is what it is. Inside him, he has this standard that he expects everyone else to meet. Alan Jones was the same for Wales. And if you don't meet it, he comes at you in front of people. And no one had really done that to me before Johnny Sexton did. And I respected that. I think it was great. He certainly was like that for the Lions. No doubt Owen Farrell is like that with England. But off the field, great guy.
Boy. You were nodding.
No, just Johnny Sexton. Like he's never wrong, whatever. Right? But he actually he very rarely is wrong. He understands the game really well. But I did a podcast for a coach's podcast. And I got a message on LinkedIn one day last October. I was traveling somewhere, but the guy said, "Oh, I heard you on the podcast. Can you send me some drills?" Right. So he rang me anyway, and he said, "Oh, I need those drills by Sunday morning at 10:00." Right. So I was like, "Who are you coaching?" And he goes, "The St. Mary's under 8s." Okay. And I was like, "But why is that important?" He goes, "You don't know what pressure is, whatever." I've been sacked twice, okay, so I know what pressure is, right? So I said, "But why is it so important?" And he goes, "Oh, you don't know what it's like to coach Lucas Sexton, right? Which is Johnny's son, okay? And for Johnny to be watching you at training, right?" So I rang Johnny and I was like, "I'll go easy on that fella," right? He goes, "I didn't say it to him, whatever." I said, "You don't have to say something. You know the way he can look at you sometimes and you know you're in trouble, right?" So anyway, I sent him some drills and everything was grand. But on the same team is Billy O'Driscoll, okay, which is Brian's son, okay? So basically, Billy O'Driscoll and Lucas Sexton play together for the St. Mary's under 8s. They're the same age and they're going to go to school together. So I don't know if you know this, but Stringer and O'Gara started playing together at 6 and ended up playing together forever, right?
Are they the same positions as Johnny?
So Billy O'Driscoll was a centre. Okay. Luca is a 10, okay? So, but Brian, I spoke to Brian last week and I said to him, told him the story. He was laughing. He said, "Yeah, Billy isn't growing." Okay, so Billy's quite short now, so he's been put scrum half.
Same as Brian.
Yeah, so Brian adapted. Brian actually was a scrum half in school for a while. So now basically Billy is 9, Lucas 10. So I said, "Oh, are you preparing him for what's ahead of him, whatever?" And he goes, "Yeah, no. I bring him out the back garden on a weekend and get him to do scrum half passes to me." And I said, "Okay." And he goes, "Yeah, whenever he throws me a bad pass, I fire the ball back at him and say, 'Don't give me that shit,' whatever, right?" Because effectively that's what he's in for over the next couple of years. So harden him up.
Do you know what that just proves in a nutshell? You know, that system that Leinster have, Dublin there.
That's cohesion for you.
You wouldn't bet against it in the next sort of 15 years, would you? Go on.
Fortunate if you got a dad who's played like those guys.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tommy shown any signs yet, Jay?
Oh, most definitely not.
No.
He's not even a rugby tots yet. So give him a chance, Gav. Give him a chance.
Who's in your 50?
So I'm going to pick a guy I played with, a Cook Islander, a fella called Stan Wright. Unbelievable character. He came into Leinster as a medical joker. He arrived on a Tuesday and he had to play against Agen. And this journalist in Ireland, Neil Francis, I remember on the Sunday he wrote, "Oh, well done, Leinster. You've signed a prop who wore rollerblades in a scrum." That's how quickly he went back, right? So he had a bad start, but he ended up being a key man first. But great guy on the piss. Wild and a great guy. And he had a great time in Leinster and went on to Stade Francais and Narbonne and Oyna. And he's back now in New Zealand building houses.
Yeah. That's rugby in a nutshell, isn't it? I love it. Just I was just thinking this is a bit of a bougie story. Last time I saw Jamie was just down the coast there for his wedding, which was, I have to say, one of the best things I'd ever seen in my life. And the lineup there, rugby-wise, was Tim Visser, James Horwill, and then your father-in-law got up and did a lovely speech about Jamie's, involvement in Rugby World Cup success with Wales and what a game that was, with the kick across under the post and Gareth Davis scoring in the corner and Jamie's instrumental and I'm sat next to Lloyd Williams who's losing his shit going, "I came on and you'll appreciate this, a scrum half who comes on as a winger changes the game," and I was like, "Yeah, well done, Jay," and Lloyd's next to me absolutely seething.
I won in the game.
It was all you. Right, we're almost done. Predictions
For this weekend?
No. Who's going to win the World Cup?
Ooh.
I believe in Ireland.
Actually, do this. This weekend's good as well. Go
on. I better say Ireland. They better win if they want to win the quarterfinal.
Let's be confusing.
South Africa.
South Africa beat France.
Yeah.
Wow.
England to squeeze Fiji. And
Wales, Argentina.
Wales. I think Wales. I think Argentina look better, but I think Wales will up it again. A little bit of a dip. And yeah, so Wales will beat Argentina for me.
And then Ireland win the World Cup.
Yeah.
Jay?
Right, I've got all my predictions wrong. So
yeah, do it again.
They carry no weight. Wales, England. I think Wales and England will both win. I'm going to go Southern Hemisphere. I think All Blacks, Springboks. Don't know why. Just gut feeling. I think knockout rugby.
Who wins it then?
It's
so hard.
I've been completely wrong. Again, I think New Zealand Springboks final.
Ooh.
Okay.
Before the World Cup, my prediction was New Zealand gonna lost on the first game against France.
Showing off now.
And they will meet again in the final.
Okay.
and New Zealand going to beat France. Fiji, if they only get their A game up, they will beat them.
Glad you said that because your brother would have thrown this across.
I know, and the coach still not allowed me in the in the camp this week.
You're not family anymore, my friend.
So Fiji and France, Wales
Yeah.
and New Zealand. Final, France and New Zealand.
New Zealand win.
New Zealand will win.
Wow.
Toss of a coin game.
It's
I mean,
really
it's nuts,
difficult.
isn't it? How hard is it? Like, you know,
It's brilliant though, isn't it?
even objectively, like you can't pick winners in these games. Exactly what the tournament needs.
Which is what we're asking everyone else. You've been listening to the official Rugby World Cup podcast brought to you by Asahi Super Dry. Big thank you to Bernard, to Jamie, to Niko. Enjoy the rest of the World Cup, lads, and we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment. Who's going to win this thing? And we'll see you next week.